Hi, it's me, Ingrid INFP, and I wanted to talk about how different cultures, different countries might be different for different personality types. We don't know how much of MBTI is because of nature or because of nurture, um, but we know that in different cultures, um, for example, introverts and extroverts will have an easier or a tougher time. I don't know if these countries have, like, if a mostly introverted dominated culture will produce more introverts, or if it's just that it has the same amount of introverts, but that the introverts thrive, uh, or at least fare a little better. Um, so I'm thinking about extroverted cultures like um, well, like in Africa or in places that haven't been like individualistic capitalized, um, or places like the US where people are encouraged to be really um, friendly and outgoing. Um, uh, People just act more extroverted in the US compared to like introverted countries like Sweden, Finland, um, Germany are more introverted kind of countries. Um, and people are in general more reserved here, and there's a word for having your own time. Um, it's called egentid, which is a very good Swedish thing. It's basically just time for yourself. So there's a word for a time for yourself. I know that Germany has a lot of words for all sorts of different feelings that we can't explain in English. Um, but yeah, so that's a good introvert term. Um, we, I mean, I don't know, I'm thinking like Italians being very outgoing seems to be the case of a lot of Italians. But then I do know people of different countries who don't fit the stereotype of their country. So my ISFJ friend is Italian and he's introverted, but um, and I mean there are extroverts in Sweden too. Um, I mean I know a lot of extroverts, and there are introverts in the US too. My uncle is an ISTJ. My cousin, I think, is an ISFJ. Anyway, um, people within the same family can be different types. So I don't know if being born as a certain country will make you more likely to be an extrovert or an introvert. And then there's the whole thinking feeling axis and the intuition and sensing axis. I think that in general, sensing types are the most common types, so they're going to be dominating across the field, um, because they're more valued, just like to get society and the world to function. Um, and I don't know about SPs though, but yeah, it's important to have SJs around for everything to function right. And I think that that's the case for most cultures. I think that certain cultures might be more accepting of NFs than others, particularly if there's a lot of spirituality that's imbued in the culture. Um, Certain places uh, might like SPs or NTs more, but I think that in general it's a pretty SJ world for most countries. Um, and then there's the facts of um, what do we say? Thinking and feeling. Thinking and feeling is often pretty 50-50. There are the gender norms about feeling for women and thinking for men. And that's the case in a lot of cultures, I would say. But it might not be the case everywhere. I don't know about a lot of cultures, so I might be wrong about certain things. But yeah, so it's an interesting thought. I was like thinking about how, I mean, I grew up in France, and I felt like when I came to Sweden, I felt like, oh, I belong here, where people are more introverted. Like, I can blend in better here. In France, like, I was always being too quiet. And France is actually pretty reserved on the scale of reserved to outgoing. But Sweden is even more on the reserved side, so I'm practically an extrovert here. A lot of people here barely talk. And it's hard to get friends here, and it is a little bit hard to be around so many introverted people, or at least to be in an introverted culture. Maybe there are extroverts who are suppressing themselves and are really sad. I know that a lot of extroverts, when they come to Sweden, they get really depressed because it's just so hard to get friends. A lot of Italians who came are extroverts, and some of them could manage it, and they stayed, and those who couldn't left. I also had a friend who I think is an ENFP. She kudos to her. She's doing medical school in France now. Like, I didn't think that she had that much, staying power to commit to such a long, intensive thing, because she's always flighty and doing all sorts of things at the same time, you know. She went into marketing first, and then she realized that there was no meaning in that, and then she did a whole 360-degree thing where she said, I'm going to do something worthwhile, and now she's doing medical school in France. But she, while she was studying marketing and working with marketing, she traveled a lot to different countries, to different companies, worked with different companies. And so she came to Sweden and visited me. And we're high school friends from France. So she was really, really sad that she couldn't make friends when she was in Sweden. She done an Erasmus exchange in Norway, so by default she got friends by just being in a program. So she thought that like Norway was so much better than Sweden, but the reality was that it's just because she was she was in a certain environment with rules where you had to kind of make friends. Like, you were with all these Erasmus people. While here, when she was in Sweden, she wanted to make friends, but it was in the work world, you know? And people here don't meet up after work. They go back home to their houses and close the door. So that's where living in an introverted society, it kind of sucks. And so she didn't like that at all. And I can see why. For me, like I wasn't about to meet other people anyway, so it doesn't really matter to me. And I feel like my personal space is better respected here than, for example, in the US, where like the waiters and waitresses come up to you and start asking you questions, and it's like I can't deal with that. Um, so there's a certain difference in the personal space in different countries, and I don't know if this has anything to do with the introversion and extroversion of people and their personality types. Uh, but I do think that MBTI might be there might be different percentages of different types depending on where you live. So there must be a part of nurture in all of this. Or for some reason, there would be more introverts being born in certain parts of the world, but like I don't have if it's the genetics, maybe there are the genetics of being a certain born from a certain place would predispose you to being an introvert or an extrovert. I don't know, because in my experience, a lot of families, it doesn't really make sense how the parents are a certain type and then you become a certain type. It doesn't really seem to work that way. But yeah, so I went on a few tangents here about my ENFP friend and about my genetics and such, but it is a pretty interesting topic about like how does culture correlate with MBTI, and is that part of the nurture that creates your MBTI type, or is it the nature and that's coupled to location? So tell me what you guys think. Maybe you come from a lot of different countries. I've seen that according to my statistics that Americans are number one and India is number two. So yeah, if anybody from India has anything to say about this topic, please tell me. Also, I want to remind you guys that I got a coffee account you can donate money to so that I can buy Renaud Contini's book for Christmas. It's just $2. I got one donation. I'm fine with that. But if anybody else feels Christmassy and wants to donate, I'll be really, really, really grateful. So have a great day, everybody. Bye.